House of Horror. Title: Oprah Winfrey and the Audience That Wouldn't Stop Listening. Part 1. My name is Oprah Winfrey, and one night, the silence applauded back.
1.
The studio was not on the schedule. That was the first thing that felt wrong. I had walked through dozens of sets in my life, some temporary, some permanent, some built to look intimate while hiding miles of machinery behind their walls. This one did not appear on any production map. No call sheet, no lighting notes, no crew assignment. It simply existed. A familiar space, assembled from memory more than architecture. Plush chairs arranged in a semicircle, a polished wooden floor, soft amber lights positioned to flatter, not interrogate. An audience chamber designed to listen. Empty.
2.
I told myself it was stress. When you've spent a lifetime being heard, your mind fills quiet spaces with echoes. Applause becomes muscle memory. Faces blur into expectation. Silence never stays silent for long. Still, as I stepped onto the stage, I felt it. Not nerves. Recognition. The studio smelled like warm fabric and old electricity. The kind of smell that lingers after cameras shut off, but conversations don't. I sat in the host chair. It fit me perfectly. That should not have been comforting. 3. Hello, I said aloud. My voice carried beautifully. Too beautifully. It didn't echo. It settled, as if the room had been shaped around the frequency of my speech. The lights adjusted subtly, warming by a fraction of a degree. The studio responded. I smiled despite myself. Old habits.
4.
The first sound came from the audience. A single breath. Not a cough. Not movement. A collective inhale. Perfectly synchronized, as if hundreds of lungs had filled at once. I froze. The seats were still empty, yet I could feel them. Presence without bodies. Listening without faces.
5.
This isn't funny, I said quietly. The breath released. A soft exhale rolled through the room like wind through tall grass. Then applause. Gentle, measured, respectful. The kind that waits for permission to grow louder. I stood up. No, I said firmly. Stop. The applause stopped. Immediately, the lights dimmed a touch, as if disappointed.
6.
I walked toward the edge of the stage. The audience seats were upholstered in deep red fabric, immaculate, untouched. Programs lay neatly on every chair. I picked one up. No date, no guest list, just a title embossed in gold. The conversation continues. My name was printed beneath it. 7. I had interviewed thousands of people, victims, survivors, celebrities, leaders, strangers who trusted me with the parts of themselves they had never said out loud. I knew the power of being listened to. I also knew its danger. When people believe the listening will never end, they start giving things away that cannot be returned.
8.
A voice came from the darkness beyond the lights. Not amplified, not mechanical.
Human. Familiar.
Please, it said. Don't leave yet. My chest tightened. Who's there? A pause. Then softly. We are.
9.
The lights brightened enough to reveal shadows in the seats. Not bodies. Impressions. As if people had stood up too quickly and left their outlines behind. Every shadow leaned forward. Attentive. Hungry. I felt the old instinct rise. The instinct to fill the space. To ask the next question. To keep the conversation going.
10.
You built us, the voices said. Not in unison, but layered, overlapping, endlessly patient. Every time you told someone their story mattered. Every time you said, I hear you. That doesn't mean you get to stay, I replied. Silence.
Then.
But you never stopped listening. 11. I understood then what this place was. Not a studio. An accumulation. Every unprocessed confession. Every pain left open for the sake of sharing. Every moment where being heard replaced being healed. The audience hadn't disappeared. It had stayed, waiting for me to come back and finish.
12.
The chair behind me creaked. Inviting. The lights warmed again. The studio held its breath. Somewhere deep within the walls, a familiar phrase surfaced, not spoken, but remembered. Tell us your truth. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in my life, I wondered what would happen if I refused to speak.
Part 2.
I did not sit back down. That choice, small, almost invisible, changed the room.
1.
Silence thickened. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that strains, that leans forward, that expects to be filled. The lights trembled, flickering between warm invitation and something colder, more demanding. The shadows in the seats shifted, not moving forward, listening harder. You always ask the next question, the voices said gently. That's how it works. I don't owe you that, I replied. A ripple passed through the audience impressions. The room's temperature dropped by a fraction of a degree. Disappointment has a sound. It's the sound of breath being held too long.
2.
A spotlight snapped on at center stage. Not on me, on an empty chair, the guest chair. The voices softened. Just one more, they said. You never let them leave unheard. I felt the pull then, the old, dangerous instinct. The reflex to create safety through conversation. To turn pain into narrative. To transform wounds into something consumable. I helped people, I said carefully. Yes, the voices replied. You contained them. The words struck harder than accusation.
Contained.
3. The chair filled. Not with a body, with a memory. A woman appeared there, young, shaking, hands clenched in her lap. Her face was blurred, shifting between dozens of people I had interviewed over the years. I never finished, she whispered. Another figure appeared beside her. Then another. Stories stacked on stories, faces dissolving into archetypes, grief, fear, shame, rage. Each one leaning toward me, eyes shining with the same expectation. Finish what? I asked. Our being heard, they said together.
4.
I stepped backward. The stage extended with me, stretching impossibly so that I could never quite reach the edge. The audience grew deeper, rose multiplying into darkness. You taught us that speaking is survival, the voices continued. That silence is erasure. That was never the whole truth, I said. But it was enough, they replied.
5.
I noticed something then. The audience did not speak unless I did first. They responded. They reflected. They amplified. This place wasn't powered by voices. It was powered by permission. 6. I closed my mouth. No questions.
No affirmations. No invitations.
The lights dimmed further. The shadows wavered. The first hint of fear slipped into the room, not mine.
Theirs.
7. Please, a single voice said. If you stop, we disappear. Or you rest, I replied.
Rest.
The word landed like a foreign language.
We don't know how, they said.
That's not my responsibility anymore. The audience shuddered. For the first time, applause did not come.
8.
The studio began to distort. Walls pulsed, struggling to maintain their familiar shape. The chairs creaked as if bearing weight they were never meant to hold. You can't leave us unfinished, the voices insisted. You made a promise. I thought of all the promises I had never spoken aloud. The invisible contracts formed when someone feels truly seen. I promised to listen, I said, not to keep you.
9.
A sharp sound cracked through the room. A microphone falling. I hadn't touched it. The echo lingered longer than it should have. The audience recoiled, as if struck. Noise without intention. Sound without meaning.
10.
The lights flickered violently now. Say something, the voices begged. Anything. I felt the weight of decades pressing against my chest, the responsibility of being a mirror for the world's pain. I took a breath and let it go. 11. I'm done, I said softly. The words were not loud. They didn't need to be. The studio groaned, lights dimming to near darkness. The shadows in the seats began to thin, edges dissolving like smoke in air. No, the voices whispered, weaker now. You're not allowed to stop. I met the empty room. Yes, I replied. I am.
12.
The applause came one last time. Not enthusiastic, not approving, resigned. Then it faded. And for the first time since I entered, the studio did not listen back. Part 3. The silence did not last. That was the cruel trick of it.
1.
At first, the studio felt empty in a way that was almost peaceful. The lights stayed low. The chairs were just chairs again, fabric, wood, nothing more. I stood alone on the stage, breathing, grounding myself in the weight of my body, the feel of the floor beneath my shoes. Then the whispering began. Not from the seats, from everywhere else.
2.
The walls murmured, soft at first, like air leaking through unseen cracks. Fragments of sentences drifted through the space, unfinished thoughts clinging to one another. I never told anyone. They said it would get better. No one stayed when I stopped talking. The voices were no longer waiting for me.
They were talking to themselves.
3. That was worse. An audience that listens is powerful. An audience that speaks without being heard becomes something else entirely. The studio lights brightened slightly, not warm now, but flat, clinical. The kind of lighting that reveals too much and forgives nothing. The chairs began to turn. Not toward me, toward each other. 4. You didn't erase us, the voices said, overlapping, competing. You just removed the filter. I felt cold. What do you want? I asked, despite myself. The answer came in layers, voices colliding into noise. To be finished, to be answered, to be believed, to never be alone again. The last one echoed louder than the rest.
5.
I realized the truth then. Listening had given shape to their pain. Without it, their stories were unraveling, fraying into raw emotion without context, without care. This wasn't a hunger for attention. It was panic.
6.
The studio doors appeared at the far end of the room. They hadn't been there before.
Tall.
Heavy. Slightly open. Behind them, I could hear something far more dangerous than voices. Other studios. Other rooms. Other places where people had spoken and never truly been released. The audience was no longer contained to this space. It was spreading. 7. You can't just walk away, the voices accused. You taught us how to speak. Now no one is listening. I clenched my fists. I'm not the only one who can listen, I said. You were the one who stayed, they replied. You were safe. The word cut deep. Safe.
8.
I thought of the thousands of conversations I had guided. How often I had been careful not to take people's pain home with me. How often I had failed. Safety, I realized, can become dependency when it never ends. I can't be your container forever, I said. The studio shook. Chairs toppled. Lights burst, plunging sections of the room into shadow. Then we'll find someone who will, the voices said.
9.
The doors at the back of the studio opened wider. Through them, I saw glimpses of other stages, other microphones, other empty host chairs waiting patiently. The audience was learning something new. If one listener leaves, find another.
10.
No, I said sharply. The word rang louder than any applause had. The spreading stopped, just for a moment. 11. I stepped back into the center of the stage. Not to sit, not to host.
To end something.
You don't need a witness to exist, I said slowly. You needed one to begin healing. That's not the same thing. The voices wavered, confused. Healing is being heard, they insisted.
No. Irraplia.
Healing is knowing when to stop speaking and live anyway.
12.
The studio resisted. Walls pulsed. Lights flickered. The doors trembled, as if something behind them wanted in. But the audience was weakening. Stories without listeners lose structure. Pain without permission to stay dissolves. 13. The whispers softened. Some voices faded completely. Others lingered, quieter now, less certain. I don't know who I am without being heard, one voice said. That's something only you can find out, I answered. 14. The studio lights dimmed again, this time naturally, like a show ending instead of a threat being withdrawn. The doors at the back closed. Slowly, reluctantly, the audience shadows thinned, seats returning to emptiness one by one. 15. I stood alone again. Not triumphant, exhausted, but present. The studio no longer breathed with me. It simply existed.
Part 4.
The studio did not vanish when the audience faded. It stayed. Empty rooms remember more than crowded ones ever do.
1.
I left the stage through a corridor that hadn't existed before, long, softly lit, lined with doors that looked identical except for the faint sounds leaking through them. Whispers, laughter cut short, a sob swallowed mid-breath. Every door was closed. None were locked. That felt intentional.
2.
I passed the first door and heard my own voice inside it.
Calm.
Encouraging.
Familiar.
Take your time, it said. This is a safe space. I stopped walking. My hand hovered inches from the handle. Behind that door was a version of me that never stopped listening, never set boundaries, never went home. I kept walking. 3. The second door was louder. Voices overlapping, no pauses, no structure. People speaking at once, each trying to outrun being forgotten. No one was listening. The sound was frantic, desperate. I understood then what happens when stories are released without care. They don't disappear. They collide. 4. At the end of the corridor was an exit. Not dramatic. Just a plain door with a simple sign. All fair. I pushed it open and stepped into daylight. Real daylight. The kind that doesn't flatter. The kind that doesn't wait for cues. The studio was gone behind me.
No collapse. No applause. No farewell.
Just absence.
5.
The aftermath followed me anyway. In interviews, people leaned closer than before, as if expecting something more intimate than conversation. Strangers told me their deepest stories in grocery stores, in elevators, at red lights. I listened, but I did not stay. That was the difference.
6.
Some people were angry. You changed, they said. You don't hold space like you used to. They were right. Holding space forever turns it into a room no one wants to leave.
7.
At night, I sometimes heard it. Not voices. Expectation. The subtle pressure of being needed to receive something heavy. I let it pass. I reminded myself that silence does not mean abandonment. It means trust.
8.
The world did not end without that studio. Stories found other places to go. Some were spoken to friends, some written down, some carried quietly until they softened enough to live with, and some, inevitably, were shouted into places that would exploit them. That was not something I could prevent,
Nor was it my job to absorb. 9.
I realized something crucial. Listening is powerful, but ending is merciful. Every conversation needs one. Every story deserves the dignity of closure.
10.
Months later, I dreamed of the studio one last time. It was empty. Dust settled on the chairs. The lights were off. On the host's desk lay a single card. No name, no title, just 4 words written in familiar handwriting. You may go now. I woke up smiling. 11. If you ever find yourself surrounded by voices that won't stop speaking, ask yourself a simple question before you answer them. Who benefits if this never ends? If the answer is not everyone, it's time to leave the stage.
12.
My name is Oprah Winfrey. I listened for a lifetime, and I learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer is permission to stop talking. The silence that followed was not empty. It was complete.
1.
I did not return to the studio. Not physically. Not in dreams. Not in memory. That was how I knew it was truly over. Places like that don't disappear when you leave them. They dissolve when you stop carrying them with you. For the first time in decades, I woke up without the sense that someone, somewhere, was waiting for my voice. It was unsettling and freeing.
2.
People noticed. They always do when a listener steps back. Conversations with me changed. They became shorter, less performative, less desperate to arrive somewhere profound before time ran out. Some people didn't like that. They wanted the old rhythm, the pause that invited confession, the nod that promised understanding, the assurance that nothing they said would fall to the floor unheard. But floors exist for a reason. Some things need to land. 3. I understood then what the studio had really been. Not a ghost, not a curse, a consequence. A structure built from years of unfinished endings. From moments where pain was acknowledged but not released. Where stories were honored but never allowed to conclude. The audience wasn't hungry for attention. They were afraid of being alone with themselves after the lights went out.
4.
I began answering fewer questions. And when I did answer, I left space afterward. Not the kind that demands more. The kind that lets people sit with what they've already said. Silence, I learned, is not abandonment. It is where responsibility returns to its owner.
5.
Once, late at night, I thought I heard applause. Not loud, not real, just the memory of it. I stood still and listened. Nothing followed. The sound faded on its own. That was important.
6.
If you've ever felt compelled to speak because someone else made you feel safe enough to open, remember this. Safety is not a room. It's a moment. And moments end. They're supposed to.
7.
The world still speaks too much. Too fast. Too publicly. Pain travels farther now than it ever did before, looking for witnesses instead of healing. That is not something one listener, no matter how trusted, can fix. Nor should they try.
8.
The last truth the studio taught me was simple. Listening is an act of love. But love without boundaries becomes possession. And possession always builds rooms that refuse to empty.
9.
My name is Oprah Winfrey. I listened. I held space. And when the time came, I left the stage. The audience did not follow. They learned to go home.
The end.
Have a nice day. Thank you for watching.